Down by Peterson's lot down there, their east lot, or?
What did you
Maybe,
see?
I don't know, I was driving east through town and I saw south of that four-way, like a big backhoe and some dirt work.
Oh, that's where that's Paulman's place.
Okay.
That could be his yard,
Yeah, that's his
okay.
yard.
It must be-
He lives right there.
right across from the pool.
Yeah,
Yeah, right across from our shop.
Yeah.
yeah.
Joe, you
That's-
were building a house
Joe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
on that piece of ground, you know, that he's got next to Boo Boo? South of
Maybe
Boo
it's his
Boo?
daughter,
That's his daughter?
I think.
I know, cause I was just wondering if they never plotted it, did they?
Yeah.
Did they plot it? Okay.
That's one of those easy minor plats.
Yeah,
Are we ready?
didn't think it'd be anything big right there.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mochler.
Here.
Packard.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Manning.
Here?
Hammond.
Here.
Yeah. No,
Any conflict of interest declarations?
there's another one behind you too.
Hearing none. Approve agenda
Move to approve.
with the public comment added. We need to add the public comment.
Second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Oh,
Phyllis had asked for an update. I don't know if we want to add that to the agenda too for the committee. I'm not sure if there's anything to update with yet, but I see that Steve's on, so.
Yeah, and the
Okay.
committee has met, so I would add that too.
we put that, just put that at the bottom for discussion.
Yes.
So amend the motion to reflect public comment and jail discussion. All those in favor, roll call. Oh, go ahead, Phyllis, sorry.
I said, I agreed.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Approve minutes.
Move to approve the-
For the last two meetings.
for the last
Second.
2 meetings.
Two meetings.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. And we'll do public comment right after we get done with Ina.
Okay, I've got the other two pictometry contracts from the city and from Clay Union Electric for you to sign. And then I'm here for my yearly visit or whatever. So hopefully you all got my little, so if you have any questions, I will glad to try to answer them. I did the appeals. We have had a few more come in yesterday.
That's what I was gonna ask
So,
you.
still not a lot, but
Where were those at, Ina, the newer appeals?
two out in the country and 5 of them here in town.
Hmm.
Are the two in the country houses or ag land?
No Egland.
Okay. And that's next Tuesday, correct? At 1?
Right, at 1:30, I believe.
Oh, 1:30, okay.
1:30.
It looks like our ratios are in pretty good shape yet then.
Mm. Yeah, and that's why the big increase in everything, because it just was 73% when I started the sales study this year. So, and it doesn't unfortunately look any better for next year going forward. Looks like probably gonna be an increase again next year.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Well, everything's increased in value so much that it's hard to argue with.
Well, whether it should have or not.
Right.
Mhm.
I
Correct.
mean, it's inflation. It's
Yeah.
inflated with nothing gained.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a couple of folks call me asking about when their assessments came. And I told them what the deal was, and on just visiting over the phone about it, they understood what the situation was, and at least those guys said, well, I think I'll just leave well enough alone. It could get worse.
Yeah.
It could be worse after it.
Right, and
After review.
sometimes it could be after, if we do go and look at them, which is what we try to do, get into every house that people have appealed, so.
Well, and some people believe that, you know, we spend more, so we raise their appraised value or
Right.
assessed value. I was like, that's not how it works.
Right. Yeah. And most of them aren't aware of the constraints that we have from the state, that we have to fit in within a certain
Mhm.
range of actual values. Thank you.
Okay, anything?
Nope.
else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now it's time for public comment of things that aren't on the agenda. Do we have anybody? Hearing none. Drew, we have the second reading of ordinance 2022-05, amending ordinance number 2013-04, being the 2013 revised zoning regulations for Clay County by adding chapter 3.15 campground facilities under Article 3 General District Regulations.
One. This is the part 2 of the campground ordinance. We had some changes from the last time we looked at this for the CUP requirements. Made changes to them. And here we are, so.
Yeah, I guess move to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Second reading of ordinance 2022-06, amending ordinance 2013-04, being the 2013 revised zoning regulations for Clay County by adding chapter 3.15 general district regulations and amending chapter 2.02 definitions and permitted uses of sections 4.05.03 rural residential district, 4.05.01 natural resource conservation district, and 4.05.02.
This is the last part of the campground zone ordinance. This is just the definitions. We had a couple definitions that weren't defined, or a couple terms that weren't defined. Now we actually have those terms, and then the adding of recreational facility individual to the permitted uses.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Anything else, Drew?
The medical marijuana zoning ordinances, we're gonna have that on the 26th of April. The notices are back in paper for that. Yeah, Mr. Peterson's gonna be in front of the board a lot because we've got 2 rezones, 2 CUPs, and the marijuana license. So he's gonna be, you'll be seeing a lot of him.
So the 26th here
Yeah.
at this meeting? Okay.
Oh, and coming down, we've got Myron's rezone. for joint jurisdiction and the cell phone tower, their CUP, but you guys might not even see that, so. Buster's in field.
Sounds good. Well, that went fast. Rod, we'll do you. Well, we'd have filled in with other stuff.
Morning. A driveway application for Dale Nelson. It's 120 feet east of the one that's already there, but the one that's already there goes through the building site. And it's getting trees and stuff is pretty narrow, plus family living there, have little kids, so he just wanted to approach going into the field, and it's still on top of the hill, so it didn't need a culvert, so I recommend you approve it.
So that's why there's no size and length of culvert. I was wondering why that was.
Yeah, me too.
And that's why it's so close to the other one, is just on the edge of the tree, of the grove of trees for the farm, so we keep it up high enough,
So he doesn't need it.
so we didn't need a culvert.
It says 30 to 40, it's even 40 good enough?
What's that?
Is 40 feet wide good enough?
Yeah, up on that road, yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much everything, that's the minimum. And it might have been, it might end up being a little more
Yeah.
when they get done with the, no pipe. But, yeah, that's about what we put in the last, it's pretty flat there,
Yeah,
Yeah,
just so they can make a turn with all the things. he's
and
gonna
actually
get.
just, will come out of there, and just, yes, right up into his, right up into his farm.
I see, so it's offset from.
Yeah,
his
so
farm
it's
driveway,
not
just
a
a-
real sharp turn for him,
Yeah,
but that's why we got as close to the trees as we could.
I'll move to approve it.
second,
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Right of way application for Clay Rural Water.
Yeah, they wanna bore under the road to run water to that building site there on the north side of 306 at the address there. Nobody, it's just east of that, the old hall, whatever.
Garfield Hall.
Garfield Hall, right?
It's just
I
a
don't
grove of
think
trees.
There's no house there.
No.
Apparently somebody's gonna plan on selling that building there or something, but I have no problem. I recommend you approve that one also.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes.
And you have those papers.
I don't have them on me.
They're in there.
Oh,
Yep.
sorry.
Sorry.
I do have
Got
them.
things out of order.
Yeah, simple ones, just one signature.
You're going fast, you almost missed the party.
Wow, I'm so disappointed. I don't have much of a voice to participate.
Oh, well,
I sound my first.
Yay.
No, you've got the community cold.
Yes, yes.
Do you want these, Rod, or? is-
Well, do you have a copy of them? Do you need to make a
Did
copy?
you have a good time in Florida?
Yes, other than coming back with it.
that's how I always come back from Florida.
There you go. Too much screaming on the roller coasters, I bet.
Yeah. It's the mold allergies that get me down there. All I've got to do is get off the airplane and
I wondered, Dick, because I thought, I mean, it was just very strange. And I think with the humidity and everything, it was very strange. I thought, interesting. I'm not the only one,
Is Brad gonna get on the,
but the world gets a reprieve.
he's not, so we can,
Yeah, we could just. Actually, yeah, when you get in there, I'll tell you what.
so we can take a motion to go into ditch board?
So moved.
second,
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, roll call?
Hammond,
yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Yes, motion passes. The trees in Yankton Clay Ditch and the Altag Engineering flyover for Clay Creek.
Yeah, the trees in the clay, Yankton Clay Ditch. As per the annual meeting. And I forget who mentioned it, Calvin Hanson maybe. So I went over to the county line, West County line, and yeah, there are some trees there. It's pretty, nothing like what we had before. But they're pretty good sized trees. Some of them are down on the very bottom edge of the dike, but they're inside, there's actually a fence. And they're inside the fence, so I would imagine that would be your jurisdiction. And about a mile. In that first mile, there's a few. And I should have brought pictures along, but you can even look at them on Beacon and pull them up. And then if you go just past 453, which is a mile east, there's maybe a half a dozen there that could be removed. I don't think it's a big, I don't know if it's anything, make out a contract form, put it to bid. I was just wondering if you just want to get a hold of 3D again, seeing as how he's got that mulcher and have him do the same thing, or do you want to go deeper in it? I would say maybe we're talking at the most 40 trees, maybe less. Some of them aren't very big either, some of them pretty small. And the dike is, or the ditch is pretty shallow on that end, according to the edge, so it'd be pretty easy to get right down in there.
Does he own the mulcher? He owns one, or does he rent one? Or what's he do?
I'm not sure, but he came back with it, and so I thought he told me he purchased that, but I'm not positive.
Cause I think
I could do
that
some,
would be a way to go, mulch them up.
Yeah,
I could do some checking. These are nothing like we had that last piece he did. They're in quite a bit of space in between. And, I don't know if we had a mulcher for our hole, we could probably even get in there and do it, but
do we have any money in that account?
Yankton Clay,
Yeah,
let me check here. I think it's gonna be close after all the cleaning, but let me check. See what we got.
because I think what was the last time he was in here, about November?
yeah, last fall.
Yeah.
Or was it just early this year when he did them trees?
I thought it was last fall.
It was last.
Was it last?
Yeah, I
fall?
think it was
Okay.
November when we got about done with it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it was late November. We were kind of worrying about snow.
yeah.
And Cal owns both sides on it right there too, as I recall.
What's that?
Cal owns both sides of the ditch right there, I think. I know he does the south.
I didn't look up.
I just checked.
Oh, I never looked up the landowners, but
Yeah.
it is a pretty easy. There shouldn't be any doubt which ones to take and which ones. You got a few of those plum bushes up on the, kind of on the top. I don't know if they really bother anything, but the trees, they are down where if they ever get water back there, the beavers will be. Some of them are this big, there's a few that big, but pretty much everything's that size and smaller.
So now that we've got it all cleaned out, are we gonna have Dennis just keep spraying them?
Dennis is gonna spray. Oh, let's see. He looked at where 3D quit digging on the west side of Kimberly's property. He can't spray there because the trees are still on top of the dike. But from there west, yes, he said he could spray that. He looked at it after the annual meeting, and then he has been spraying from 454 west to up to where these trees are, but these are too big to spray.
Correct.
So he has been taking care of keeping those down, and it looks like he needs to get over there again and do from 454 back to the west.
But we're keeping them from Holmes's. We're keeping those all sprayed.
Whatever he can get, it's not real easy to get next there with a sprayer.
Okay,
And, you know, at one time here a few years ago, we talked about taking a dozer down there and try to level it off so we can get close. You know, and he does have a boom he mounted on the loader of the tractor we rent. So it can get out over the edge so we don't have to drive up on the dike. But some of the trees, there's gotta be no trees in the way or
Right.
fence posts. And it is, you know, hard to spray at all, cause there are a lot of big trees left out there on.
yeah.
And then it's on one side, and then you go, and then the next time it's on the other. And, you know, once you get past our county gravel that goes up to Freeburg Shed, there's a lot of trees. You know, the only time you can do that is get down in there and actually spray it, which he has done. And it's, right now it's bone dry grass, cattails, or not cattails, but the cut grass is pretty tall down in there, but you know, it's still too early to spray them. They gotta be at a certain stage just as they start putting on leaves or something, if I remember right.
I think you gotta have the leaves on it, is what he told me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You gotta have the leaves, so they got something to suck.
but yeah, he's planning on doing some spraying in there, whatever you guys, and the whole wave, whatever you can do, if that's what you want. He'll try to get it done. He can get down there with a Kubota, and if he takes the strobe light off, he could actually drive through the culverts.
Really?
So, so he can get between, the only one he can't do is at Holmes's,
Okay,
because of the riprap on the both sides there.
Makes a heck of a difference when you can spray them though.
yeah, I
They don't
did
get away
check
from
this, I checked that west mile too, right by the county line, and it's a Nels Jensen's trust for the west half and Bill Fargo's, so that would be Riken's
okay.
land on the east half of
Of that mile.
that mile, yeah,
That's the first mile east of the county line.
correct, yeah, Bill,
Yeah, and there's usually an address on Beacon. When you hit the parcel, then there's an address. That's usually where I send the letter first.
yeah,
Hopefully somebody gets back to me if nobody has a phone number for
yeah, Jim would be easy to get a hold of.
him. Jim Rankin.
Yeah, he probably farms that whole thing.
he farms Bill Fargo's?
He has in the past anyway.
Okay,
I might be wrong. Whenever, pretty much all the Fargo land that they have irrigators on, Jim's the one that calls me to work on the irrigation systems.
okay.
We have 15,670.
Not gonna go very far.
Boy, I would think that would easily do it.
Yeah, I should do that west part. That's for sure.
I'd get a couple bids at least,
Okay,
just because from the last bid we had, 3D was the highest. I forget what we just bid,
Prairie Center.
Prairie Center. They were the highest bid by quite a ways.
The other,
Okay,
the other
so
three
then
were real close. But they were high.
if I get more than one, then I'm gonna have to, it's gonna either they grub them out or they mulch them, or do you just
Mulch.
strictly mulch?
Mulch. So if they can't do it,
They can't cut them down and mulch them, they gotta mulch them. See, that's what, I mean, I get like, there's so many different ways to do it, you know, if they go down with a chainsaw, cut it and run it through a mulcher, and they're mulched up, but then that costs more than the guy to come and.
well, that's on them
just
then,
mulch it.
as long as they're mulched and it's not
Okay.
dug out.
So if they can leave the stumps and as long as the trees are mulched, not burned or buried.
Now, when they mulch the stumps, that kills it. If they cut them with the saw, they need to be treated. Cause they'll sucker back.
See, and those are actually Dennis said that's the easiest way to spray them when they, next spring, when they come back. Cause you gotta get out there exactly at the same time they cut them. And within like 2 hours, you have to paint them,
Mhm.
or they call it painting, whatever they put on them, but it has to be either that or they gotta go out and make another cut to do it. So he says it's been easier to let them start, like you said, to come back and then hit them.
But whoever cuts them needs to paint them. If they're gonna cut them with a chainsaw, they need to paint them.
Okay,
If they grub them out with the mulcher, that'll kill them. They won't sucker back then.
okay, well, that'll eliminate, cause they'll have to have a pesticide license to put that aquatic Roundup or whatever it's called. But okay, yeah, I'll check with a couple guys.
Okay,
And then that fly over the creek, I let him know a couple weeks ago that the ice was out. The leaves aren't out yet, but they're coming fast. And since I talked to Kerry and put this on yesterday, he sent me a contract. I usually sign them, you know, and it's just, I approve them, so they go ahead and start, but seeing as how this is the ditch board and we had trouble with this in FEMA,
okay.
so I want you to sign it, but I didn't know if we could sign it today because I didn't have it on. I just had the flyover, I didn't have the contract,
No, it's on here. It's Clay Creek.
so you can sign it. Cause I just should, we try to keep it, hopefully we don't have another issue, but we're still dealing with people on that. On the creek. Not just on that side.
We just need a motion.
Is there a value on that?
What's that, Phyllis?
Is there a cost?
Is there a cost on there? Or is this,
Their fees and service will be capped and limited to a maximum amount of 30,127.50.
does it say if it's split, how it's, or if it's split between FEMA and us? Because that 3 or 4 miles that's under
Right.
FEMA, they'll pay with their engineering.
He's supposed to have it split from 457 to 452,
But that's the total that's gonna be between both of us.
right, but no, I do not see, but he knows that he has to
Split it.
keep that, he should have had that in here though.
And he told me he was gonna have it split. Or he knew to split it anyway.
Right, but it's not in here, so maybe. Is there gonna be a drone survey, estimate quantities? Yeah, see, been opening at the Clay County Highway Department.
Yeah, that needs to all be changed.
Yeah, let me tell us we need to have that.
We'll do it next
last
Tuesday.
4 miles split up, yep.
Split up and then it needs
And then
all bids,
opening here.
opening here and bids submitted to Kerry.
Right. And that's the. That's the drone flyover. Right now, the water, there is water in there, but it's very low. It should be pretty easy to see the sloughs and I mean, some of the beaver dams that I pointed out last fall before you decided to do this, they're still there. I mean, you know, it didn't dry up and it didn't come up to wash anything out. So I'm sure they made them bigger, but they should be easily seen as long as he gets to it. As soon as I get back to the office, I'll get a hold of him and tell him we need to revise that. So last 4 miles, so what is that, 8 miles to the east then? No, 7, it's 11 miles, 452. God, cause it curves around there. I think it's like almost 11 miles. So it'd have to be 4 on the FEMA end and the rest.
7 on.
Actually, we just go 457 to 452 is FEMA. Everything east is just normal, I suppose. He can figure out the exact amount. I have to follow it with the beacon measurement to get it with all the little jags and curves, and Bluff Road definitely doesn't run straight anymore.
No,
Okay, I'll get back. I'll bring that in next week then.
okay.
That's all I got on the ditch. Anyway, have they started on the great?
That's what I was gonna bring up. We've talked to them about burning the Perry Center ditch before they try to clean it.
Okay,
So my question is, the fire department, we've talked to them about doing it. But you know, they want a contribution, which we'll get, I'm all for it. But can we take that out of the Prairie Center ditch? We can't, that's not a problem. So what do we have to do? Do we have to have them present a bill?
yeah, ask them what they want, figure out what they want.
Okay. Okay, yeah, they haven't started yet, but they kind of want to burn it off. Part of it, we burned some of ours off earlier, but the rest it hasn't been burned, and it should be, it'd make it a lot easier for them.
And that was Greg Warrior that got the bid on that.
Yeah, and I talked to Tim just the other day, and he had Ryan. Can't think of his name right now.
Fishbach,
What?
Fishbach?
Yeah, Ryan Fishbach is with the fire department, and he said that they could fit it in, he thought, get it in there.
Yeah, I know the Wakanda Fire Department goes out and burns, helps them, you know, they light it up, but they're there just
Mhm.
for backup. Way the wind's blowing, it'll be a while for you. Before you
Right.
It'll burn
get a
faster.
chance to burn. Yeah.
I don't know which
we'll-
direction it'll go.
Yeah,
Burn it against the wind,
Yeah, yeah.
you gotta blow it out.
yeah.
Fortunately, we don't have any houses that are very close, which is a good thing.
So I'm glad you brought that up. That Prairie Center wall that got burned up,
Yeah,
so was that actually the REA's taking care of that?
Corey, I called Bob Fallon, and I was gonna tell you that. Bob said he was gonna talk to Clay Union. Cause he said as far as he was concerned, they'd have to pay for it. Cause I said, you needed to know where to send the bill, so he hasn't contacted you.
Not Bob, but I talked to the Clay Union Electric, they come out and got the bridge plank.
Okay,
And we, you know, kept track, told them about how much it was gonna be.
Mhm.
And so they contacted me the other day, or Laura, wanting to know how much the bridge plank were,
Uh-huh.
or who was gonna pay for them.
okay,
So REA put them up, as far as I know, because we had nothing to do with putting them up.
okay.
So apparently we should show the REA, because I know you said it's either gonna be Prairie Center ditch or the township.
That's what I thought, so then I talked to Bob. Bob said he thought the Clay Union, but I think if you send the bill to Clay Union, you'll get some results one way or the other.
Somebody will talk to
Somebody will
you.
let you know.
Because I mean, we're not talking a lot of money, but
No, I know.
but because they already fixed it a couple weeks ago. They come and got the plank.
So did you put all new planking? I haven't buy it.
Yeah, they,
Yeah.
24 plank, because it was quite a lot longer than what we remembered it was.
Right, yeah, it's pretty long.
And then we thought we backfilled it with concrete, but it didn't look like it. I could have swore we backfilled it with concrete because it kept washing around behind there so bad. Water must really come through there when it comes through there.
Yeah, it definitely gets a little force. But there's a concrete in the ditch on the bottom.
Right, where it comes out of the
Spillway.
pipe. That's the
Yeah.
only way we can even keep the riprap from not blowing out of there.
Yeah, but I think if she sends the bill to them.
Okay, I just wanted to.
No, I meant to get back to you with
I
that.
just wanted to make sure, because I kind of, the way they were talking that, what they were expecting to, so.
Okay,
Yeah, a thing I saw on my trip, both in New Mexico and Colorado, is that, and a couple in Wyoming, they've got these rock cages.
Yep, we got those.
You know, My gosh, you know,
Rock
for
box.
around the edge, on the ends of those, that might help reduce that erosion if a guy put a rock cage in there and filled it with some oversize.
Yeah, if you notice there south of the Prairie Center Hall, I don't remember the guy's village, something lives on the
Yeah.
west side.
Yeah,
So we had boxes in there and they blew them out of there. Actually, what they do is wash under it, then they tip out and
yeah,
then they block the water. But since we put the monster blocks in there, the riprap there, you know, that eliminated that till the next big one.
yeah,
But no, we use those, they're called Gabion baskets,
right,
and we use those like in a big scour hole under the end of a pipe to, because if you just keep filling it with dirt, it washes out. But
right.
yeah, those, they are handy, but they're time consuming to get the rock in that,
Yeah.
in the basket. It'd be nice if we could buy them that way, but
How you load it?
yeah, it looks like chain link
How would you
fence.
move it?
It looks like chain, well, the same way we move it with a fork.
Yeah,
Because we fill it up on the edge of the road and then drive it down, and set it in there.
I see.
It sits on there, but they're like 8 feet long.
Right.
It's like a big bale of hay,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
that's all I have for the ditch too, unless you have something else.
Anybody have anything else? Take a motion to come out of ditch board.
So move.
Second,
A motion and a second, roll call.
Hammond,
yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard.
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, we're in regular session.
That all for me. I don't have anything for the highway yet. Anything for me? Load limits are off.
Guys like you really well after you took them off.
Yeah, I'm used to that. They don't like me when I'm putting mine. Then the next time I see them, so let me buy you a cup of coffee. Yeah, yeah. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Rod.
Excellent.
Never any things.
We'll go to the bottom. We got vouchers and payroll. Did everybody get to see those?
Yeah, I move approval of vouchers and payroll. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. ARPA funds. Carrie, you want to explain that one?
Yes. So a lot of the counties are going this route with the ARPA funds where they are going to claim that $10 million revenue loss allowance and use the funds for salaries and wages. And then that way, it's just easier accounting for it. There's not so many hoops to jump through at the federal level for compliance purposes. Then that way, the money that they didn't spend on salaries and wages can be used for other purposes. So it just eliminates a lot of reporting requirements and, compliance issues.
Yeah, it sounded like at the district meeting, 100% of the auditors were doing that.
Yeah, they are. A lot of the counties across the state are doing it that way.
So do you have
Makes things
something,
easier.
do you have something for us to sign, or me to sign then?
There's nothing to sign. I just need the motion that I included in your packets.
Okay,
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. We need to assign $10,443 to the 911 equipment per 2021 revenues and $38,249 to the ambulance per the 2022 budget.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Resolution 2022-08 for outstanding checks. And this is for,
This is checks, treasurer's checks that were mailed out and never cashed by the individual. We send out follow-up letters letting them know that if that check was lost in the mail or something, they have the opportunity to have that replaced. And these were not answered in any fashion, so.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes. Andy, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Did you want to talk about shift differential?
Sure. I was gonna talk to you about a request to increase shift differential. A little background on that. We have a shift differential we offer jailers and deputies. 50 cents an hour for an evening shift, 75 cents an hour for a weekend shift. Just to kind of offset those shifts that people really don't want. Generally, we see with our younger folks, our jailers, maybe the newer deputies, they really don't care when they work. And as people get a little older and if our retention's good, they start having families and it becomes a burden to work those shifts and might kind of play into turnover a little bit to some extent. In addition to that, we have, thank you to you folks for the work you've done in the past on getting pay increased, but we're still far behind. So for example, our starting pay for a deputy is about $4 less than police officers, and Spink County Sheriff's Office starts at about $4 more than we do. We've been trying to fill deputy positions since last fall. I have a new deputy starting. Victor Allen will start on April 18th. And he's coming to us with some experience from JDC, but taking a pay cut to do it. And that in mind, I'm not asking to change salaries at this point. We can talk about that maybe during budget time or anything, but I was gonna ask you to increase shift differential to $1 an hour for nights, and then just an even $1 an hour for weekends as well. It'll help those that are accepting that burden. For example, we've been working two deputies short since last fall. We had one deputy he quit, and I just filled that position, and another deputy got activated with the guard, and he won't be back until this fall. And there really isn't any remedy for that other than thankfully we did fill the one position, but he will be in his training for a while. Then eventually we'll have to go to peer for 3 months, and the deputies that are back behind doing the work now are picking up the extra contract hours, the extra night shifts, and the extra weekends. They don't work any more hours necessarily, maybe a little bit more overtime, but they're doing the other deputies' burdens in regards to the division of the duties. And for that, I'd like to be able to compensate them with shift differential at least. I have a couple of the younger deputies that have been on nights for months and don't see any change in sight for that because of the school resource officer has to work during the day, and there's just certain things I can't fix about that. I have one deputy that stays on weekends without rotation. So I was going to ask for that. I don't have a problem. I guess my request is that we would do it effective maybe retroactively back to January 1 or effective April 1st. I believe we can afford it this year because I have two positions I haven't paid for months, and one that's budgeted for that I won't pay almost at all this year. So the money's in my budget, and then I would include it in my budget for next year if we do that. The cost for this, I think the increase would be about $5,000 for the year. I think that's pretty cheap to help compensate the people that we have that thankfully are working here for what we pay them. So that's my request. I've got other data if you need it regarding like how much we pay out right now and so forth. We pay roughly, I guess, give me a quick thing. We roughly pay about $800 to $850 a month at shift differential across the jail and the patrol divisions. Comes out to about $10,000 a year is what we pay in shift differential now. Our shift differential is very low compared to other places. The city of Vermillion pays $1 an hour for shift differential.
Yeah, I would support this change strongly. I was the wife of a very young cop for a lot of years and that shift differential makes a big difference. And it's one of those things that allows families to, of officers who, maybe sacrifice a little bit more. They're not home at night. It's takes a toll on the physical body as well. And I think at least matching what the state's doing makes sense to me.
Yeah, it seems to me like it's the right thing to do, and really for, how long are those shifts or how long the shifts are they usually when we have a differential situation?
Well, they have 8 to 10 hour shifts. Some
Yeah.
of our shifts are 10-hour shifts, some are 8-hour shifts.
Yeah, so it'd be, really in their pocket per shift, it'd be in the range of $7.50 to $10 per shift is the extra money they would be getting.
If a deputy or a jailer is on a night shift or a weekend shift rotation, for the month, they probably see about another $150.
Oh.
It's not a lot, but it's something. And those are, as Betty said, those are time away from family, and it becomes hard to get a mature. When I say mature, I don't mean in relation to immature. I'm just talking an older person that has family at home that they're taking their time away from. If they can offset that time away with vacation savings or something like that, that they can point to as what they get for that time that they give up. I think it helps us with our retention. It should be noted for what it's worth, the deputies and jailers didn't ask for shift differential when we first gave it to them years ago, and they haven't asked for this increase. It hasn't even been mentioned. It's something that I wanted to give them for what I've been seeing them doing these past several months. That's why I suggest that we make it retroactive to January 1. They've been picking up these extra hours for quite some time now. That would cost us several $100s, no doubt. But if that's a burden, I think that starting it now is fair too.
You need a motion for that?
Yeah.
So moved.
Certainly, if I can, I would like to recommend 125 for this, but I don't know if it's in the budget or available, but I back this wholeheartedly.
I appreciate that, Phyllis, and I certainly wouldn't object. One thing that we do have that the city doesn't do that I would like to continue though, is that we do double up for example, a night shift on a weekend. You get both, so that would be $2 an hour on a weekend night shift. So, I think it's fair. There in medical field, you see $2 an hour shift differential or more. But this would be competitive as far as shift differential. I don't mind doing the $2 an hour on a weekend night where the city doesn't, because they're already getting $4 or more an hour for the hours that they're working. So I would definitely appreciate increasing it, but that's up to you.
Well, I think we should stick with the dollar that Andy's recommending right now. Budget's only a couple months away.
Yeah.
And once we get the
Next year
numbers,
we'll do it again.
we can get the numbers in front of us and know exactly what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's fair.
So I'll second Dick's motion.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yep. I'm sorry, Travis.
Oh,
When
Go ahead,
when would
Andy.
that be effective?
Oh,
Dick didn't make that point.
April
You could
1st.
do you could do the retroactive. That's
Yep.
what I'm hearing.
Well, which one, Dick? January 1st or April 1st?
January.
Let's go to January
Yep.
1st.
Okay.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes,
Mochler.
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you.
Andy, you're not in today, correct?
No, I'm just on Zoom for you today.
Okay, do you know when you'll be back?
Tomorrow morning briefly.
Okay, I need to talk to you and Matt sometime.
Okay,
It's not urgent, but just sometime we can get together.
okay.
Anybody have anything else for Andy? Thanks, Andy. Did you see, Sam, did you see Scott out there?
I talked, Scott Hansen?
Yeah.
No, he's up at the 40.
Oh, he is. Okay, said he'd be right here. Yeah, he just texted me, he said he'd be right here. Okay. So if you want to come to a microphone, and Marty, are you on?
Thought he was.
Yep, there he is.
Good morning.
Morning. So we've got the HVAC project discussion. And I know we voted which option, and I think, is he the engineer?
Dave's our architect.
Okay.
Ryan is the engineer and looks like he's got his camera on there, so.
Okay. So Marty happened to see the, what would you call that? The options that we had from the Associated Consulting Engineering. Marty's been in the business for, I don't know how long. Sam's been in the business since he got out of college. Yeah. There's a lot of experience. Marty just happened to look at that and said, well, you don't want number 2. Well, that happened to be the one we voted on. I just wanted to have this conversation again. I know Sam has expressed some concerns to Scott also. So I just wanted to get their input before we spend this money and go any farther on how this process should work and if we are getting the right equipment. So I don't know who.
Can I speak, Travis? Is it?
Yes, go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, and first of all, I'm not an engineer, so I want to make that clear. And I have been in the business for a long time. Not knowing the background or how the whole project was put together, I may need a bit more detail, but I guess in my line of thinking, if you guys can work with the chilled water system you have and maybe add on to it for the PD and the sheriff's side and put chilled water over there, to me, you've got a pretty fair system in place. It may need some modification, a little bit of work, but that's about as good as it gets. It isn't real nice for you guys because it is a 2-pipe system, but to me, if you could add controls to the system, I know there's some times in the shoulder seasons when it's kind of warm or kind of cool before the system switches over, and I think controls would help with that. But again, I don't want to put myself out in front of what the engineers have prepared. I just was really kind of curious. I couldn't read into what I saw there to have all the background.
So Ryan, do you have any thoughts, or Dave, on this?
This is Ryan. Just to start out a comment, we have not designed it yet. We have not started on that. So we're certainly open to discussion about going a different direction. I just want to put that out there. It's not like we're 3/4 of the way done with it or anything. As far as the chilled water system, Marty, you mentioned some of the issues with the 2-pipe system is that there's a lot of times of the year in spring and fall that they wish they could have heating on one side and cooling on the other, or the system is still in cooling, but they wish they had a little heat. The proposed system would address that because it can independently heat or cool any time of the year, actually. With the chilled water system, you mentioned something about expanding into the jail. The chiller that you have right now, it does have life left in it, but its size is really just appropriate for the courthouse. If we were going to extend and add a lot more building to that, then we'd have to add another chiller or a single larger one. I guess other thoughts, if we wanted to stick with a chilled water type system, possibly use the same chiller that's there for just the courthouse. We can do a 4-pipe fan coil unit system. So all those units that are throughout the facility would be changed to a type that has heating and cooling, and then you'd add another piping system throughout so that you'd have heating water and chilled water at the same time. Apologize, I didn't have a whole lot of time to, or wasn't familiar with what the questions were going to be here.
And that's fine. I mean, if we have to come back and talk after you get answers to the questions or whatever we
Sure.
need to do, I just want to have this conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the only thing I would add, you know, on my side of it, being in the biz for a while, we do have some customers of ours that are out there that do have them. And everything Ryan said is absolutely accurate. I mean, they do add some flexibility. I just have, you know, now that some have been in for 5 to 10 years, there are some additional service issues that we're starting to see take place. Again, not saying they're bad systems. I just, you know, in my mind, if we could weigh out the differences between what we anticipate, you know, refrigerant leaks and some of those things you're going to have, the higher chance of that with the VRF system and things like that. That's just something we hear from our customers. And that was one of the concerns I had. I thought, well, we should probably air that out, or hopefully at least visit about it maybe before you guys make a final decision.
sure.
Go ahead, Sam.
Okay, so,
Buttons up.
you gotta push a button.
Yeah, push it up and then speak into it. Yeah.
Okay, so, the VRF system is a great system. I think here, you know, we could benefit a lot. I've taken care of the building for the last 20 years, both with John's Controls and now with my own company. I think we could really benefit by installing a new boiler. The boiler for this building, you know, is 1990. Is that what we decided? Late 1980. So we could definitely improve on the efficiency, you know, of the boiler. As far as the chillers and the DX system, you know, for the sheriff's department, I think we're 5 to 10 years old. I don't know exactly on that one, but there is quite a bit of life left, in my opinion, you know, on those systems. So what we've got right now with the boiler, you're probably sitting at about 80% efficiency. I think, like Marty said, you know, with a little bit of control help, we can really improve, you know, on the heating side of it. Right now with the boiler we've got to keep the return water, you know, at 140 degrees or higher. If we go any lower than that, it'll condense, you know, and it'll ruin the boiler, right? If we put in a condensing boiler, like a high efficiency boiler, what we can do is we can put in a drive for the pumps, and we can slow everything down so that we're producing, you know, as much heat as we need for the building. You're slowing everything down, so you're bringing all that heat out and trying to keep that return below, you know, 138.6 is the real number. If we can keep that below 100, you know, call it 140. If we can keep that below 140, we can achieve the stamped efficiency on that boiler. Say it's 98% efficient, you know, 95% efficient, and so on. That'll greatly improve the heating costs that we have affiliated with this building. It's not going to change the fact that we've got a 2-pipe system, but there's not a ton of time, you know, that's really an issue here. The courthouse itself does have a DX rooftop system. That's a little bit older, but I mean, you know, when there's court going on, they can always have heating and cooling, whatever they need. The rest of the building, I think Carrie could probably attest, there's not a ton of times where we're real uncomfortable, you know, with the chiller. There gets to be, but I mean, there can be that 1 week or whatever when it happens.
You'd be surprised the amount of complaints we get from
Yeah.
the employees. And the biggest issue really is the courthouse and the jail, because there's such different temperatures that, you know, if we're comfortable in the courthouse, they're 90+ degrees in the jail, and there's just no in between.
So with the high efficiency boilers, you could put, say, 2 new boilers down here, keep maybe the old one just for backup or whatever in the jail, and tie the systems together. So we can, again, that way we can achieve the efficiency we need for the heat. You know, for the cooling, they'll take care of themselves, and you know, with the new controls, I think things would be a lot more comfortable. You'll still have individual control here. The one thing you won't be able to achieve though is the comfort that Ryan's talking about. as far as being
What-
able to heat and cool all year round, different buildings, you know, so if you want to heat the basements, but maybe cool the third floor, you still won't be able to achieve that here with a 2-pipe system. When the cooling's on, and when the heating's on, the heating's on. Generally, you know, we just switch that once per season, so.
What was the 4-pipe system, Ryan, you were talking about?
A 4-pipe system is where you add another set of pipes to what you already have. And then each one of those fan coil units that's in each office or room, it would have 2 separate coils in it, one for heating and one for cooling. And then you can actually run the pumps that would be pumping the chilled water around, and also pumps that pump heating water around. And then it just chooses the coil that you need, whether you're heating or cooling. So it's able to heat and cool at any time. You know, maybe the north side of the building has heating and the south side has cooling, for example. You know, that system would involve a whole new piping system added on to what you already have now. But that would address the shoulder season issue of the needing heating and cooling at the same time. Just a couple comments. I do not disagree with anything. Sorry, Sam, is that?
That's correct, yeah.
Sam was saying, and you know, we're open to ideas of, you know, maybe a different proposition for what kind of system. You know, the replacing the boilers is kind of independent from anything, and adding the ventilation unit is kind of independent from anything. That just as a reminder, the ventilation part of that is a special unit that provides fresh air to all the spaces and uses an energy recovery ventilator that makes use of exhaust heat or in the summer, the cooling that you've already put into the building as you're exhausting it out of the restrooms, you strip that cooling out of it. In the wintertime, you strip the heating out of it to preheat or pre-cool the fresh air that comes in. So, I mean, those 2 things, the boiler and the ventilation, could be done independently, fire protection for that matter. And then as far as the actual heating and cooling of the building, I mean, we can come back and look at the idea of adding a 4-pipe system, or just basically replace the fan coil units that you have now with ones just like what you have, but they're new, and stick with a 2-pipe system. There are other options there.
Ryan, can you kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there a discussion in our last meeting that the pipes would be smaller with the VRF system than what they currently have? And there seemed to be some benefit or some thought that that was actually a good thing.
Sure. Yeah, switching to the VRF system, the pipes are definitely smaller because they're just small refrigerant pipes to each one of those rather than a chilled water pipe. I think it could be blended into the building a little bit more. I mean, they're still there, no doubt, but that was kind of one of the advantages of that VRF system. The pipes can be left exposed, kind of like they are now, or otherwise could be covered up with soffits as well.
Wondering if Scott, if you want to weigh in on this.
That's the amateur in the room here. The Sam and Marty here. Guess I didn't realize there's so much more to it than I started talking to Sam, started talking to Travis. And so I'm glad these guys are here to weigh in. You know, I guess I have them all over my mind for a while. I guess, you know, I understand what Marty's saying about that refrigerant system, and, you know, down the road, you get down the road 5 or 6 years and you're gonna have additional costs and that system with refrigerant leaks and stuff. I think at the end of the day, we just gotta sit down and weigh our options, decide what's best for us to do, whether it's the the system with refrigerant or the 2-pipe system like we have now, or 4-pipe system. I know there was concerns about problems in the summer, if I'm not mistaken, about condensation, right, Gary?
Yeah,
And some leakage, but I think that might just go back to an issue of a good PM program where those green pans are getting checked and making sure they're not plugging stuff like that. Like I haven't been here through a complete cycle, so I don't really know what we're all up against there. You know, I guess I kind of come from rather old school where it was all 2-pipe systems and chilled water or yeah, like we have over here in the police department. So I guess I'm learning with everybody else here. You know, like I said, there's pros and cons to everything. I like the system with the smaller piping. Obviously, it's a little more aesthetically pleasing in the eye in this building. But you know, I guess if you get down the road and you're having refrigerant leak problems and stuff like that, then I don't know how convenient that software becomes. Then you gotta be digging into it to find problems. What's the code on that, Marty? Or on those refrigerant lines, they'd have to be soldered. It's not a continuous run. I don't imagine up in a socket, is it?
I guess, I don't know the code on that, Scott. That'd probably be a question for Ryan. But, you know, I know a lot of everybody's going to the ProPress fittings now too. So, you know, I it's just for labor savings and ease, you know, soldering is kind of almost going by the wayside. So again, you know, I think there's some unknowns there that, like you, I'm old school. I maybe a little bit kind of like PEX piping. I'm still coming to grips with that. I guess I'm just old school.
But I mean, with the refrigerant coolant, I mean, I think that's the first day in school, isn't it? Where they tell you air conditioners leak, refrigerant leaks. So, I mean, we know that's going to be an issue. It's just a matter of when. I just want to get whatever's going to be the best system for our situation, and nothing's going to be perfect. But I do know when second floor is comfortable, we're smoking third floor out. They've got their windows open and they're letting heat out. Those are the issues we need to address. And he thinks that with the proper maintenance on the drip pans, that will solve the condensation and the mold issues that we've ran into. But I am not anywhere near an expert on what's going to be best. I guess what I've gleaned from it is what's going to be best is going to be the least aesthetically pleasing. But I don't know. I mean,
Yeah. We had a lot of issues with leakage, Sam.
As far as the water condensation, yeah, there's definitely some.
In the hot water system, we had a lot of trouble over the years.
No, I mean, the system itself is, you know, it's in pretty good shape as far as the pipes go.
Right.
Where we're having, you know, some issues with is kind of what we're talking about, like mechanical units. We just need to spend time and like, I wouldn't say rebuild them, but definitely go through them. You know, redo some of the plastic, there's just like a little plastic hose that comes off once in a while, you know, causes drain problems and so on and so forth.
So you agree that most of that problem is just a PM program getting on?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think that the mold problem and the condensate pan problem, see, I think that is, you know, we've just never had anybody to do that.
You get standing water in there and it gets.
Oh, yeah.
Starts to grow.
It's a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can get different orders. Yeah, I've been down that road and I know that all these little tricks of the trade, little tablets you can put in there and all this and that, so.
That's a big problem here, but the other problem is being able to zone each room so each room is comfortable. You know, you get a building like this with big stone thick walls, it acts as kind of a thermal flywheel, except the roof. Especially if the roof is dark, you end up with a lot of heat gain right through the roof, and that's what does the third floor in, I think, in the summertime. If there's some way that we could handle taking care of that zoning problem, the most efficient way of doing that, I think, is is what we need to work towards as far as the heating and air conditioning system. I think the preventative maintenance thing's gonna take care of that health issue that I was worried about early on, is that we were having a lot of mold issues in the fan coils.
And would you say that was from water leaking out of the condensate pan or just stagnant water?
Both.
And that was
I
both,
think
okay.
that, yeah, I think the condensate pans were not draining properly and that there was a lot of just accumulation of water, standing water inside of the fan coils themselves, which was giving us a mold generator in each fan coil, some worse than others.
Okay.
And under the option of sticking with a either 2-pipe system or if we added 4-pipe, the fan coils would all be new ones. It's possible that the drain pan technology has changed a little bit and you'd be starting off new, of course, with your preventative maintenance. Just keep that in mind.
So if I'm understanding the 4-pipe system correct, it'd just be 2 more of what we already have?
Yeah,
so
that's right. It'd be adding
Okay.
another set of pipes. Yep.
Yeah, now we use the same system for both cooling and heating, and we would have a set of pipes for each under a 4-pipe system. I'm correct. in
That's
that.
correct, yep. Yeah, so you'll be able to run
Hot
the
water.
furnace or the
Hot water.
boiler.
Correct.
Use hot water, chilled water going through.
And then we'd be able to say today was 90 degrees, we can have the air on, and tomorrow is 50.
Yep.
We can have the heat on.
That's correct.
Yep.
Could, same day.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, on 3rd floor.
Yeah, it's not a common commercial situation, to run both at the same time.
On a building like this where it's a big thermal flywheel on 1st and 2nd floors, chances are you'd only switch once per year, but
Yeah.
on the 3rd floor especially, that's where we'd end up with the cycling with any day.
Of course, it should help a lot too if we're ventilating
Yeah.
all the
Correct.
air too. We should be able to suck some of that heat off a 2nd floor or 3rd.
I just kind of wanted to get a feel of where you guys were at as far as, how deep into it did you want to go? I mean, if you're looking at doing, a whole new 4-pipe system, or, I just really didn't understand quite how much improvements you wanted to go with. So if you're looking at doing a whole new 4-pipe system or a VRF system, or kind of making this more efficient, with what we've got. There's different steps. I mean, obviously, if you're looking at putting in a whole new system, then you're looking at, like he said, 4 pipes, so 2 for chilled water, 2 for hot water. Then the VRF system, yeah.
We'd be adding
But if that was the case, I would probably lean a little bit more towards the VRF system personally.
Correct.
Okay, if you're talking about one or the other, if you're talking about trying to save a little bit of money but still make improvements, then I would look more towards hitting that boiler side and then putting drives on our pumps. Okay, and then of course the planned maintenance, being a little bit more diligent as far as making sure the upgrades are needed that we need on the on the fan coil units. But I think there's a lot of life expectancy left in this. As far as a comfort issue, on those days, like you said, that's going to be tough. I mean, in South Dakota here, we can wake up where it's 30 degrees in the morning, and by the time we hit late afternoon, it's 70, and that can be an issue. I know we don't have any kind of ventilation system at all right now, short of some of the exhaust fans. So what Ryan said, as far as putting in like a make-up air unit or a air exchange unit, that's a great idea. That would also help with some of those floor issues where it's hot. You could look at possibly doing this in stages, keeping what we have, put an air exchanger up there to suck that heat out, right, when it's hot.
Right.
On those days, just those odd days that we have, that would help.
Yeah, those would be run.
Just doing it in stages, or if you guys are committed to doing something full board, that VRF system, I'm not against. I think that's I just didn't know where you guys were at as far as how much you were committed to. you know?
Well, barring a natural disaster, we're here for a while. I mean,
Yep.
like 30,
It's just-
40, 50
Yeah, I
years.
hadn't heard where we were at with that. I knew that, you know, I talked with Andy a lot. So Andy had said, you know, you guys were hoping to get a different facility and so on. And now you're saying.
Yeah, we're here.
So, okay,
So we want the best system
best system you can get. Okay,
that's gonna be, and not be a maintenance nightmare.
yep, understood, understood.
I can add that it's efficiency plus comfort of our employees is a big issue.
You bet. Ryan, were you looking at doing a geothermal or was it, is it water to water on the VRF system?
It would be a water source heat pump type VRF. So the energy source for heating is the boiler adds heat into that loop. And then for cooling, we have a dry cooler so like a radiator on your car, basically outside that would
Are you
get
gonna put
rid of
that
the
up?
excess heat.
Is that gonna be on the roof or is that gonna be like out on the side here?
I think we had some idea there for where to put it on is it the north side of the building by the other equipment?
Yeah, I don't think those details were worked out completely yet, but on the north side of the building.
Yeah.
Were we tying in the law enforcement center?
Not for the ventilation system and the boilers. It was kind of, the idea was there that yes, you could just we're going to put in 2 boilers regardless, but put in 2 that are a little bit bigger that would be able to carry that. That's a pretty easy transition compared to, like I was saying, if we were going to use the chiller, it's not big enough for the whole other building. But yeah, it's in consideration to size the boilers for the law enforcement center as well.
To tie that in is not difficult at all because there's already a hole there. So it's not even a matter of really going through the wall. So to tie that in and have the efficiency was first discussing, I think would be a great idea. And then as far as ventilation, Ryan, they already have, like you said, there's no need for any extra ventilation because they already have all the ventilation they need. Through their hand. Were you gonna do ERF on that side, Ryan?
We haven't decided to do anything over there yet, but I'm wondering if should it be done now, or should we just make sure that the ability is there when we need to do it?
You can add it, like, I'll let Ryan talk, you can add that later. The DX units you have right now, the air conditioners, they're only 5 to 10 years old.
Okay.
So, the one that's been an issue is initially since it was put in, you know, has had a leak that, I think we found it's been a bear, you know, to get, so, but other than that, they are fairly, you know, they're pretty new, yeah. It's got some complexity. It just depends on whether you want to add it all into one package or not.
Yeah, the note I had,
It's a refrigerant leak that
Yeah,
we have.
correct, that's correct.
yeah, the note I had from our last discussion was that the boilers in this system that we were going to install could be used as a backup for the law enforcement center. So it wouldn't be the primary because they have a pretty good system over there.
Recommend using the high efficiency boilers as your primary and using the old boiler as a backup. And then putting drives, you know, on all of the pumps.
Right.
You know, over there to, again, you know, to get the most efficiency out of it that we can.
Yeah, you get a lot of flexibility just using those VFDs too then.
Yeah.
So Scott, does the courthouse have a generator and then law enforcement has a generator, or is it just one?
Just one.
Just the one, okay.
Over to safety center.
So we don't have one here.
So would you feel comfortable, really studying this issue and getting into the weeds and making a recommendation to the commission?
As far as this HVAC system,
Mhm.
I feel more comfortable.
I can do it,
calling,
yeah.
Sam or Marty, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, Marty and I can do it together.
Because,
Marty's been here.
I mean, I could sure give it a stab if really wanted me to. I'd give it my whole heart, but I'm not sure if we did. I'd be going to these two anyway, so. It looked like Scott was doing all the work.
Yeah, for me, like I said, it was to get a feel of where you guys stood. more than anything. I didn't realize, you were committed to the
Yep.
long run. I thought we were looking at some.
I'll gladly work with these two gentlemen, get you all the information you need, they reach out to Ryan also. I mean, I just kind of nuts and bolts guy, that's all I've been all my life, that's what I meant Sam, Artie, out there in the field, so I got a lot of respect for them. Their knowledge and what they do in the years have been at it, so.
And just for clarification, it's pretty clear we're going to stay in the courthouse, the side, the law enforcement center. We are looking at a possible bond issue. Ultimately, it's up to the voters in November to move the law enforcement center in the jail to a new space. And I know that there's a lot of energy behind that proposal right now. So I'm not sure we would want to do something big and expensive on the law enforcement and jail side. Unless the direction changes completely between now and November.
But even if the jail passes the bond, the courthouse is gonna move over in, there's gonna be some offices that go over in that building's gonna be full.
Meaning you guys would occupy.
Between us and the city, because they own part of that building, somehow that building will still be full.
Yes,
When I say the
absolutely
expense-
true.
the expense to tie it in is gonna be very minimal. I mean, I can take Travis, just kind of take Travis down there, whatever
Mhm.
later and show you, but you're talking about, 30, 40 feet of pipe. That's it.
Okay. I think
Tie
that
it in,
was,
couple valves.
I think that was part of the last discussion too, is that if there needs to be any remodeling done over there in the safety center after, the jail and the law enforcement have moved out, whether it would be appropriate to install that now or later because of the, the location of the units and things like that.
Yeah, on that side, I think if we can get the bones of it, well, again, going forward. Let me talk with Marty. I'd like to visit with Marty a little bit and Scott, and I don't wanna,
No, that's fine.
I don't wanna say something and then backtrack on it.
I agree.
But fundamentally into that, because of the cost. Just the boiler side, we can really take advantage of that. And then when you do turn over and occupy, say it's 3 years from now, then we can look at putting some new controls in, and whatever else is needed.
I don't think there's any of us that can sit up here and know half of
Nope.
what needs to be done.
Oh, God.
I don't have any
Nope.
idea. So I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if you guys can work together and come back with a
Mhm.
recommendation, we're a whole lot better off
Yeah.
than we are sitting here cooking at this.
Well, those
So-
are, at this
And I
table,
appreciate you.
what
Mike.
we want is the end result.
Right.
We want a building that's healthy, safe, and it's comfortable for the employees in each room in the building. So we want that to be, and we want it to be done as efficiently as possible. So at this table, that's our look at it. You guys are the experts on how to do that. And I think that we have other folks that came up with this scheme.
Mhm.
Also, they have expertise that is important for us to use. Since we've got it, they kind of know what we've got here as far as on the engineering side and the architectural side. So I encourage you all of the 5 that we have online at this point to work together to give us the most efficient and effective system that we can come up with. We're gonna be in this building a long time, not only this old building, but also the law enforcement center. So think of it as a whole.
Yeah, and I think even though you're gonna focus on this right now, be able to tie into the safety center at some point. But I think we need the training room doesn't have air conditioning.
Right.
I think that should be added
I've got
or fixed, addressed somehow. Okay.
so we talked about that.
Yeah, and have that, so that it fits in with this long-term
Okay.
goal too.
Okay.
We don't want to end up adding air conditioning, and have that just go to waste in the long term.
So I hate to hold you up, Ryan, but I think that's kind of where we're heading.
Yeah, I definitely want the right system going in that everyone's comfortable with from a cost and future maintenance standpoint and in some cases, what you're used to, so you know how to work with it. I'm willing to kind of expand the study so that everyone feels that they have a little more information to work with. I mean, that was the intent of that study, to provide a couple of options, but it sounds like we need to expand it a little bit more. I would like to be part of the discussions with Sam and Scott and Marty.
Absolutely.
Coincidentally, I'm going to be in Vermillion tomorrow. If we wanted to meet together tomorrow, if you're available, we can walk through the courthouse together and look at a few things and talk through some more options. I'm certainly willing to do that.
I think Marty's out of town.
Okay. And it can be another time as well, obviously.
Well, I think, quite frankly, between Scott and Sam, they could probably walk you around, Ryan, and get you where you need to be. You probably don't need me there for that, so.
And to be clear, I mean, I have been through the courthouse. I just thought if we're talking about options and that, we might as well be there and look at a few things as well. Do we want to try to meet tomorrow or
What do you think?
defer that to a later date?
What time are you thinking, Ryan?
I have an appointment, let's see, from 9:30 to probably about 11.
I know I have a doctor's appointment in the morning. I'm not sure when that is. I'd have to look. Well, I'll search that out and call you back. How's that sound?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay. All right.
Anybody have anything else? Thank you guys for showing up and helping. Any questions, Ryan or Dave?
Not for me.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. I'll just wait to have a meeting to discuss it a little more with you guys and expand that study as needed. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Might be beneficial for Sam and Marty, maybe to read that report that Ryan's company did that.
Carrie, do you have an extra copy of that?
I
Some-
do, yeah.
If you give those guys a copy of that, that'd be pretty informative for them.
Sounds great. Yeah, I'll be back. I've got a meeting to go to, but.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
guys.
Need for anything else?
No, not today. Rhonda, are you here for executive session? Wake up. Dave, are you here for?
We're together.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
The team.
So I know we've got a couple other things to discuss, but since they're here, if we can go into executive session now and talk about that. Does that work for everybody?
About potential litigation. Or what's our grounds?
Legal or so what you, sorry, repeating that legal issue.
Potential litigation.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
okay. So I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, we're in executive session.
Need to have.
Agreed.
Okay, now we'll take the motion to come out, Dick.
Move to come out of executive session?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard,
Yes.
Mochler.
Yes, we're in regular session. Dave, you have something for the option?
Spoke with Larry Brady about the current option we have to purchase the land is through September. And I contacted Larry and said, there's been a change, the vote's being moved to November. He was frustrated and he basically initially said, I'm done. It's good till September if they just want to buy the land. He goes, other than that, he says, I just sold the stuff to Starbucks or whatever.
Could you
Okay.
move the mic a little bit closer?
Oh, and yeah, there you go. So,
He said he got $10 square foot for that land. So, but that was our conversation. I just said, I understand, Larry. And I hung up. 5 minutes later, he called me back and he goes, no, he says, I'm gonna extend it. He says, I'm gonna give him till the end of the year. And he says, I asked, do you want any compensation for the extension? He's like, absolutely not. I said, well, I said, you're doing the right thing, Larry. He goes, no, I'm not. He goes, no one would believe that. But I think I felt he did do the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, and he wants to see this project through. But he also, you know, understands when he has his value.
so can we get a new contract written up then, a new
Yeah, he's in
option?
Arizona till May 5th, I think he told me.
Okay.
Then he's be back, and I said, well, our contract's still good till September. I said, when you get back, we'll draw. He was good with that. So that's anybody question. That was just consent of our conversation. So
Well, that's a good thing.
Good.
Have it ready
Thank
for him
you.
by the middle of May though, okay, Dave?
that will.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, I think Phyllis, you wanted a jail update. Is that what?
Just where are we with that? And I guess one question I have, is it appropriate as a commissioner to write a letter to the editor? And this is a Lexi question.
Well, I mean, number one, since you guys have rescinded your resolution, there's nothing on the ballot, and I think you can do what you want to do at this point in time. That statute that addresses expending public funds and those types of things contemplates influencing an election or ballot measure. So there's nothing on the ballot right now. Number two, I can go find the memorandum regarding campaign finance stuff that I did up for you guys last year. But, you know, anytime you're putting out their information to the public, I think you're fine. I think you're entitled from a freedom of speech route to say what you want to say. And a letter to the editor, certainly, even if we're a ballot measure, doesn't implicate campaign finance because there's no money being expended. So Phyllis, I think you're well within your purview to exercise your right to free speech and submit a letter to the editor. It wouldn't implicate any campaign finance laws, in my opinion, anyway. And since you guys have, there's nothing on the ballot to vote on at this point in time, I don't think we're really back in the area where we need to be concerned about that right now.
Basically, what the group that's got together is more of a citizen group. It's not really, I mean, that we're concerned about getting something done. It's not that as a commissioner that I'm at the group. There's Steve Walders that's on the group.
So he said something up
So
here.
he did, yeah. He sent me a message that he was gonna have to leave the meeting at
Right.
9:45, so he was, apologize for that. He says Betty, Andy, and Mike were at the meeting and can update key points. We are now called Citizens for the New Public Safety Center. We are expanding our member base and seeking more widely known persons to help lead the program. Website and informational materials are being developed. Social media team is being formed. And Sheriff Howe, Chief Betson, and himself will be at the April 27th Up Next Coffee Hour with an update. Expect some activity now, but really ramping up after the June election and becoming very evident in August and later.
So this is not, it's not like this isn't a committee any longer. That's a subset of appointment by the county.
Yeah, this is, I think the discussion the other night was actually to create a political committee under state law. And the title that Carrie just read out, to develop a website that people can come to for information, to speak to all the local clubs. We made a list, and then we're still in process in certain areas, right? So there's this question of whether Turner County, would like to do a regional jail. There's still this question of state funds, and what's going to happen with the summer study. So, so we're still developing a lot of information. But we know we will need to. This last time out, there were a few people who put some personal money into advertising. We need more than that. And, 2 people shouldn't have to pay the freight for that. So the idea is to, actually raise some money and work on.
So since they're going to be
Very
sorry,
public.
I didn't mean to cut you off. So since they're going to be a political committee, that means that they could do the work that we wish we could have,
Yeah.
and they can take donations and.
Yep, that's the intention.
Exactly. And I actually talked to Sydney Davis, and she told me that she's trying to get on a committee that's gonna do the summer study. She's pushing for her to get on it, and she said that she would keep sending me information as she gets stuff along. And I was thinking that she was gonna reach out to like maybe Andy or Matt to see some input from them. I never mentioned Steve Walters, but I should have to her, but I will. So there's where kind of that. I think she's very much for it. She told me, and don't quote me if I'm wrong here, but I thought she said that that the governor has $600 million that was supposedly going towards for public safeties and jails and stuff, so forth, prison system across the state, not necessarily for counties, more for public, more for prisons and that kind of that. So she said that that's been out there, but she said that that's never been really said for sure either.
Yeah, I think that's right, that there's over 6. Yeah, I mean, there's a very large fund, but I think that for counties, the contemplation was putting aside 80 million for regional jail operations, which we would, we're going in with Turner be eligible for. So, but again, they're not going to do anything or formally appropriate money until after the summer study. It's exciting.
And I always take those numbers with a grain of
There you
salt,
go.
because during the discussion for that particular bill, the amount that they were gonna set aside went from, $100K to $2 back up to 2 million. And it was, chances of it remaining at 80 are relatively small, I think. And that would be spread among a number of projects.
Yes, yeah, she wasn't real, she just threw a number out there basically,
Yes.
to the governor and threw out, she
Correct.
wasn't putting it in
Yeah.
stone by any means.
But I think we need to keep track of it, and I think we should have a voice in the process, and I think we should actually go up and talk about our dilemma. We're not alone. I mean, it's every county that hasn't already built a jail has this problem.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Multiple
I
times.
also recommend that somehow in the website or whatever, that there be a write in your questions. What do you need to know?
Yeah, so that's the first thing on the list, is there's going to be a whole section of the website for frequently asked questions. I made a list from what everybody was saying in the room, and I've got a list to start. So
And
that was a good
hopefully there's
idea.
And please give us your question, because we do not know all the questions they're asking.
Yeah,
So I think that there's a couple of components to this. I think it's a good idea to have a political action committee separate and apart from the county, because when it comes time to do things like vote yes for, that's the way those things will be able to be done. But I would also say that there's nothing preventing, like I said, there's no ballot measure right now. And even when there is nothing preventing the county from providing information to the public about conditions, about those things. And so from a public relations standpoint, if you all end up spending funding to update websites and resources and things from the county, and maybe that, you know, this group has its own website or something and does a link to the county. I mean, however you want to do that, I just don't think it's a bad idea, or I don't think it's prohibited to be providing information in a user-friendly fashion out on the county website either. And that's probably going to take some money, but it may not be as bad as you think it is. I mean, when we redid our website a number of years ago, we were really fortunate to work with the same woman who runs Andy's, and I think she did a really nice job.
So are you saying that if we want to get on to the courthouse website, that the courthouse could put money towards it, or would it have to be money from the outside in order to, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what you want to do.
Right.
And I think that, you know, and I don't know, and I unfortunately see our architect, I'm sure they didn't stay on for this,
Right.
but I just think it needs to be.
You know what I'm getting at is that people are gonna say, well, they're spending county money to promote this election.
Well, and that's where I think you need to be careful. You can't do things like vote yes for this.
Right.
But I think it's been really cumbersome. And I know we tried this kind of grassroots thing, some of us as department heads back when with the first election, where we're doing these little self-created videos and things putting out there. We're not tech people.
Right.
We're lawyers and auditors, and like that's not our gig. And so there's information about the county that if you have someone who understands how to communicate that to other people, there's nothing that prevents you from doing that. And so as we've worked through this process, are there renderings that maybe?
As long as it's informational, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
So, and then it's informational, and if we want to have something else out there, the citizen group would be the one saying, vote yes.
Exactly.
Okay, so then on the two different websites would have both have the same information, but we would have the information.
But like if you're putting information out there of lumber costs today are this, and you know, last year they were, you know, whatever that might be. I think that's informational. When people want to know why this project, why are we looking at $39 million when last year the whole project, I mean, I think you can put some information out there, but we all know that there are things that catch our eye when they're marketed and presented to us in different fashion and are more user-friendly to navigate and negotiate. And there are people who can do a good job of that. And in general, you know, kind of a PR standpoint from the county, getting information out to the public in a user-friendly fashion is one component. And tangentially to that may help this issue, but it could help everybody too. And then if you want, once it's time to make a decision, because that sounds like what we're going back to is there's being review of just additional information and where we need to be.
Right.
And so once a decision is once again made to move forward, and there's actually a resolution that's been passed, something's going on the ballot, I'd be very cautious at that point in time. I mean, then it really would make more sense, in my opinion, for the Political Action Committee, if that's what's being formed, to be the one putting literature and materials and those types of things out. But if I were them and I felt there was helpful information out there from the county website, why wouldn't you link that up?
Because we can put on there, you know, everybody's going, well, how did this project double? Well, the jail and law enforcement for the county's portion was a little over 23 million last year. Ours, it's 30 this year. So it's a 30% increase, just like the city has a 30% increase on their portion. So, I mean, 30% building costs, that's actually low compared to what a house would be.
Yes. And those are the things that I think resonate with people because, but it's a place for them to go seek information when they're ready to digest it. And I think hopefully we can all relate to that too, of I'm not going to loop into things. I want to go seek it out on my terms when I'm ready to go probably some of it cast a vote, but even leading up to that, has this question been asked? I love the frequently asked questions deal. I mean, that's awesome. Because that's what people want to know.
Well, I have the biggest problem is, and the other time it happened, there was so much false information that's thrown out there. And I want the, in order for me as a voter to vote, I want the best information. I want the railroad information, not all this, what Dick found out at the coffee pot, wherever he's at. You know, that's where the problem we ran into.
That's where I think, the web presence is going to make a big difference.
I think so.
And having accurate information, having frequently asked questions. And we came up with, the group came up with a really good list to start that frequently asked questions. So
Can you share that with us?
Sure. I think once it's up, yeah.
Well, even before, so that we could add to it.
Well, I think you can add to it anytime you want, Chris. All you gotta do is get a hold of somebody. and-
Right now, it's a list
Yeah, so
handwritten in
it's
my
not
notebook.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you have anything that you wanna make a list of, feel free to send it to Betty, send it to me, send it to Steve Walters. Anybody, I mean, we'll make sure, even if it's a duplicate of what somebody already said, we'll have it.
Where I'm curious is, the comment last, that there were all these questions. I really am not getting that. I'm getting people wondering why it's taking so long, or the fact that they just don't want more taxes.
Right.
It's just kind of black and white. That's why I was asking for what are you seeing as the questions that might raise some other ideas.
I think the big one you just hit on, why is it costing so much? That's the
The
big.
other that has been the fact of comparison between the Rapid City, which basically they're constructing a dorm, not a jail.
Right.
And a huge difference in costs in construction.
Anything else for this issue?
Thank you.
So,
I think we're to joint jurisdiction. So last night I went and talked to I was a visitor to be heard for the city.
Okay.
If you recall, on December 7th, when they came in here and talked to us, they had mentioned if we have differences we should set up a meeting. So I tried to do that day. That was 4 months ago. I mentioned that to them. The city council had no idea. They didn't say that, but from the reaction to their faces, they had no idea. I know the mayor received the email because the city manager sent me an email saying she received it. So I rescinded our request to have that meeting and said, I'll be in touch. And they asked if we still wanted to have the meeting. And I told them, well, I'll have to talk to the commissioners to see what they want to do. So.
yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense as a county to have a relationship on this joint jurisdiction area. So I would like to meet again.
That'd be great. I still haven't gotten an answer from them why they've ignored us for 4 months. I'll sit down. I have no problem with that, but I think it was, like I told them, it's a slap in the face that we're supposed to be an equal partner in this and you'll ignore us and won't even talk to us.
I guess I'd be open to having a meeting. I mean, I think that, I think it's beneficial to both sides, not just one or the other.
That's right.
I think that sometimes gets lost in the whole thing.
That's right.
Is that we look at it that we're equal partners, so both sides got to give and take. That's just the way it is. I mean, I don't like compromise. I like to win too, just like everybody else does, but you got to compromise it sometimes in life. And it's not always the most fun, but it's the way it is. Way you win. Both sides win.
Yeah, and what we might need to get it going is an agenda. You know, list of issues to discuss.
Yeah.
That was all proposed. They've ignored us. So,
Can
I mean,
get a
I'm
copy
gonna,
of that?
John sent it. Because we've been told, if you're gonna set up a meeting, you have to go through staff. So that's what I did. And I can get you the email from John that said he
That'd be
sent it.
So we had an agenda already set.
Well, it wasn't agenda. We were gonna talk about those issues that were brought up. And it was gonna be a joint jurisdiction meeting to talk about those issues. And John sent it on to Kelsey and that was it.
It might have been that we needed a little bit of cooling off time or something. So another run at it is, I think, is appropriate.
Right.
Those same issues are still there though.
Yeah, that's okay. That doesn't, yeah, you don't necessarily expect them to evaporate without any work. So we just need to set up a time where we can work on some of these issues. And it isn't necessarily that we're going to have a winners or losers. I'm of the opinion a lot of times once you work through some of these tougher issues, that it ends up being big win, little loss perhaps for each side. So I think we ought to give it another run.
Okay, I'll try again.
Agreed.
Anything else? Or can
No, I don't have anything else.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Nobody else?
I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hammond,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Packard.
Yes.
Yes, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Ruth.
I'm not